What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today, doing a showcase video for Halloween Ace, which is obviously the new character that I've pulled. If you guys have not seen how I got this guy, go ahead and check out my my previous video, the Law Sugo Fest pulls. I ended up pulling him there. Really ecstatic about pulling this guy. This was one of the legends I was really looking for. Out of the ones that I was missing, this was probably up there with being like the #1 unit that I was hoping to get. So I'm really happy that I have him now, and today I'm bringing you guys a showcase video, giving you guys like a full in-depth look at what this guy is able to be doing. And this guy's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of this unit, and I like what they kind of aim to make him do. He's really interesting. So let's go ahead and break him down first, and then we'll get into some clips that I have for you guys today. So Halloween Ace is an int shooter fighter character, captain effect of boosting fighter and shooter characters' attack by 4 times, also giving them a 1.5 times HP boost, so extremely tanky, and a flat 4 times boost is exceptional. Also makes int and psi slots beneficial to your team as well. This is going to be really good, especially if you are running characters that are non-int and psi, just so you get heaps more beneficial slots for your characters. And then it says reduces the crew's special bind and special reverse by 10 turns. So this is just an inbuilt utility effect, very similar to Stampede Luffy, where he would remove 10 turns of paralysis and despair. This guy instead will remove special bind and special reverse. Also very similarly to the Shanks crew legend, which is coming out on global very soon, where he has the inbuilt effect in his captain to remove special bind. It's just a powerful effect. It just means that you do not need to bring any special bind removal on your team, which is great. The only time where this is not applicable is if your captain is, I think, either binded or despaired. I'm pretty sure if your captain is despaired or binded and then you're inflicted with special bind, I believe it will not proc the captain effect to remove it. So in that situation, yes, it is going to suck, but it's not going to be too often where you're both despaired, binded, and special binded at the same time. But either way, it's a great captain effect. I think it's one of the greatest captain effects in the game right now, especially just being so tanky, beneficial slots, utility, and a flat 4 times boost. Not much more you could ask for there. I'd say the only downside to the captain effect is the classes that he boosts, fighter and shooter. Not overly amazing. Fighters are definitely pretty good, but shooters, yeah, they got some decent characters overall, but they don't have that much cohesiveness from what I found so far. But we'll get into that in the video. As for his special ability is also very good. So it will go ahead and be a 13-turn cooldown, reduces the crew's bind duration by 10 turns, and then boosts fighters and shooters by 2.5 times attack for 1 turn. So a flat 2.5 attack boost, just with no precondition, is freaking awesome. And then also removing additional bind. So he removes bind, special bind, and also special reverse, all just in this one unit itself. So he's tanky, great utility, great damage, some beneficial slots as well. Like, this unit is so good. As for his crewmate effects, 75 stats to fighters and shooters, makes Psi Tenem and recovery beneficial to himself, and he actually has a really good support effect. He supports Luffy and Sabo, and once per quest, if you're inflicted with bind, he just reduces 3 turns of bind. So this is definitely going to see play. Just being able to remove that many turns of bind for free is really good. He has the Barry Pierce potential ability. He has critical hit, 90% chance for 10% extra damage. That's very good crit, and he has 5 turn reduction of recovery bind, which is not very good. But either way, across the board, this unit has a lot of good things going for him. So now let's go ahead and get into the showcase of Halloween Ace. So getting into the showcase video, I have a few different clips for you guys. I got 2 Coliseum clips and 2 Garp Challenge clips. So I actually have built an int shooter team that both takes on the Doflamingo Challenge and also the Revolutionary Army Challenge. It's not the exact same team, but both int shooter teams, which is pretty cool. And of course, we're taking on 2 Coliseums, as I said. We're taking on Coliseum Kyoshiro as well as Coliseum Trafalgar Law, both of which are 2 of the most difficult Coliseums in the game, I would say. There are a lot of people who always ask about, you know, team building for those particular events. They're very difficult. So Halloween Ace, he's a pretty cool character. I love using this guy so far. As we discussed in earlier stages of the video, he is a shooter and a fighter captain. Now, predominantly, I have found utilizing fighter characters to be the best option for this character, which is why I have built an int shooter team for the 2 Garp challenges, and then against the 2 Coliseums, we predominantly use fighter characters specifically, just because I feel like they get the job done a lot better than the shooter characters. Saying that though, over the past couple of months, I have stated publicly that I do think shooters are one of the worst classes in the game right now, and the main thing thing about shooters that I don't like specifically is there are lots of individual really good shooter characters, but cohesively as a team, shooters aren't the greatest. They have, as I said, lots of individual good units. Halloween Ace, Legend Pudding definitely has her uses, and I use her in one of the GARP challenges you guys will be seeing a little bit later on. Legend Chopper, for example, great utility that he provides. Like, they have really good individual units, but as a team, it's not that great from what I've seen thus far. So I would like to see them perhaps have a full month dedicated to a bunch of free-to-play and a batch dedicated to the shooter class, and make that class just a little bit better than what it is right now. Because what I feel like shooters need is a couple of good units that provide some really powerful utility, as well as provide some orb manipulation and then like a damage boost on top of it. Basically, like a character like Ambush Linlin, but for shooters, would be so good, and I think it would desperately help out the class, because it definitely needs some sort of buff in some way, and I think that would be a nice step forward in introducing some really powerful shooter characters into the game. So moving on to the next clip now, you have the Coliseum Trafalgar Law, and speaking of Trafalgar Law, we are using him as a friend captain here. I actually did clear it with a Snake Man friend captain, but looking back at the clip, I decided I really wanted to use Trafalgar Law. Even though Law is not boosted by the captain effect of Halloween Ace, he actually still partners up really well, because remember, the new V3 Law does boost fighter characters. So with this team, we have a full team of fighters, except for Law himself, but Law has such a powerful special ability that it definitely more than makes up for it, and especially because on the final boss room of the Trafalgar Law Coliseum, he has a damage immunity against Cyanid's characters, so it doesn't actually matter that Law doesn't do any damage anyway, and predominantly we are focusing on the barrier penetration, especially here on stage 4, with Zephyr and Ace to give us that damage to kill off the Buggy and the Carbagy. But either way, I do think that shooters do need some sort of buff, as we've said already. But speaking of Halloween Ace himself, I've been a huge fan of using him thus far. He's a really good character. So much HP. So much HP. And then he has the added effect of resisting Special Rewind, which you would have seen in this clip here. On stage 4, as soon as you reach this stage, your characters get Special Rewinded by 2 turns. Obviously doesn't matter because of the captain effect of Halloween Ace. And then on first turn, upon reaching this stage, we can just use his special straight away, which is really good, right? And then he also resists 10 turns of Special Bind, which you guys will see in full effect when we take on the Doflamingo GARP challenge, as on that first turn, if you don't kill that enemy, you will get inflicted with some Special Bind, which Ace is able to resist, which is perfect. And I really like captain effects that have inbuilt utility like that. Like Stampede Luffy is a bunch of fun to use because of not only him just dealing pretty good damage, but he has that inbuilt utility of resisting paralysis and despair, which means that you don't need to bring a unit to remove paralysis or despair. And in the same vein with Ace, you just don't need to bring units that deal with Special Bind or deal with Special Reverse, which is great, right? And that would be amazing if shooters had just a few better characters just to further improve the class a bit, because Halloween Ace as it stands is still a fantastic captain despite shooters not being overly great. He kind of just makes them just that bit better, right? Also, another thing as well, I would have preferred if Halloween Ace was not an int character. I have found that even if you do want to build a shooter-based team, a lot of the best shooters in the game are int and psi characters, which is a little weird. They need to introduce some better strength decks and quick shooter characters just to improve it just a little bit. I know this is turning into like a rant on shooter class specifically, but I mean, it is what it is. That he's a shooter captain, and I'm telling you what I think about shooters specifically. But either way, as I said, he's a bunch of fun to use, and you can still use really good fighter characters with him. As I just mentioned a little before, I did use Snake Man as a hybrid friend captain. In this example here, we're using the V2 Akainu as a hybrid captain here, just because, you know, when you hit all your perfects, just a 3 million damage at the end of a turn is going to be really good, and especially on an island like this with the GARP challenge, especially that stage with all of the Dressrosa enemies, or the 6 enemies, I think it's stage 4, that stage can be very tricky to deal with. So having just a 3 million damage at the end of the turn, on top of already dealing around 1 million damage with normal attacks, it really helps you clear stage 4 really easy if you do have the friend captain V2 Akainu. But you guys will be seeing when we move on to the Revolutionary Army, we do actually run double Ace, and we have Legend Pudding on the team, which is cool. You guys already know my opinions on Legend Pudding, but of course, because she's a shooter character, she has a great synergy with Halloween Ace, especially with Halloween Ace providing a humongous 2.5 times attack boost to his two classes that he boosts being Shooter and Fighter. So having access to a character such as Pudding that can not only store that buff and use it in another turn, but also give you some pretty good ore manipulation. So in very certain circumstances, Pudding will be like a really good character, and you definitely will be seeing it a little bit later on in this video, as not only do we need to store that buff, but we get block orbs as well, so we can change those into matching, you know, store that buff for another time. It's such a good buff to have. Not overly needed, but it's really, really nice to have. So it's really cool that, you know, you get access to characters like that. And even like, as we said before, Legend Chopper, which I don't own currently, which is such a shame, because Legend Chopper would be nice to have, not only just for his amazing utility for the shooter class, but also if you need to farm cotton candy, it's nice to have someone like that, for example. Now, as of me recording this video, we are only a couple of days away before the French anniversary on One Piece Treasure Cruise Global, and we know that Shanks' crew and Arlong crew are on their way here, which is very, very exciting. And one thing to note as well is that the Shanks crew and the Arlong crew, when they're in their dual forms, not in their dual forms, but in their singular forms, they are actually Shooter in each of their variations, which is interesting, right? So you can actually, technically, if you're running these GARP challenges and you need a shooter captain, technically you can actually use Shanks' crew to help you get through it. Even though he is a rainbow captain, one of his forms being shooter actually does fulfill the condition for that fight, which is good. It makes it a lot easier if you have someone like Shanks' crew as your captain, right? So that's pretty cool. And then Arlong crew, one of his forms is a shooter as well, so he technically can be used to clear this as well. So those are just some options, but, you know, Halloween Ace is still great because of the mass amount of HP that you get, especially if you're running an HP boosting ship on top of Halloween Ace as well. Another good thing about Ace, I mean, he's an int character, which means you can run Megalo. Megalo is one of my favorite ships in the game. Obviously, it does require one of your captains to, or your captain to be specifically either Psi or int, which in my two past showcases, we've had the V3 Law and now Halloween Ace both being Psi and int. It definitely helps out having the Megalo ship, not only just for the rainbow attack boost for your team, but it also will give you the special, which can lock your orbs for one turn, so you can carry certain slots that you get over multiple rooms, but as well as the fact that it gives you 10% damage reduction, which is very good, especially for Halloween Ace having so much health, and then adding 10% additional damage reduction on top of it. It makes him extremely tanky, right? So those are just some great benefits that Halloween Ace has that, you know, some other characters might not get access to. Talking more about Halloween Ace, about specifically him being an int character, I feel like that is still kind of weird because, you know, a few months prior, or quite a few months prior, we had the release of Legend Capone, which was also an int shooter character, shooter captain, of course, and a shooter attack booster with his special effect, and also made Sign int orbs beneficial, was a health booster. Halloween Ace literally does every single thing I just said. He is a health booster, he's a shooter attack booster with his special, a shooter captain, makes Psi orbs and int orbs beneficial to your shooter characters. Super, super weird they release a legend, you know, later on down the line, which is literally the same, but slightly better. Like, Capone is just a weaker version in almost every sense when you compare him next to Halloween Ace. The only real benefit that Capone has over Halloween Ace is the Big Father mechanic, which is still really good, and you can still find ways to, you know, shoe in Legend Capone as a sub under Halloween Ace, literally because of the Big Father effect. Big Father's still really good because it can go ahead and tank poison damage, it can tank burn damage, which are exceptional, right? So literally, if you have Capone and you have Halloween Ace on your team, you're resisting Special Bind, you're resisting Special Rewind, you can also resist Poison and also resist the burn damage as well, or just any end of turn, end of death damage hit, anything like that. Big Father can tank it, which is pretty interesting, right? So there's really cool things that shooters are able to do, but I feel like they just need that little push in order to make them one of those top tier classes, right? So I really hope that that happens sometime in the near future. But once again, we will have to see. But I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much for staying tuned to the channel and checking out the Halloween Ace showcase video. If you guys enjoyed the video today, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post on my channel, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.
嘘でしょ嘘でしょ